Chapter 71 9 Turns Golden Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. We are about to enter Qiang City. When we get paid, let's go to Xianxia Tower to play together. Haha, how about it? Several mercenaries have become quite familiar with Ye Feng these days. Every night in the cold wind, they would come to Ye Feng to drink. Okay, if you have time, it would be a good idea to go to the Xianxia Tower. Ye Feng smiled, took a bottle of wine from the hand of a tall mercenary, and drank a few sips. Although these mercenaries are all lickers of blood, they are not bad-hearted and are still very enthusiastic towards their friends. Ye Feng did not resist these people, but was happy to listen to them tell some interesting things about the wilderness. Whose turn is it to tell a story tonight? Ye Feng took another sip of wine and asked with a smile. Last night, the legend about entering the wilderness snowfield area, one man and one gun, fighting a giant dragon has not been finished yet. A mercenary immediately became interested. He drank a few big sips of wine, his face turned a little red, and then he said, "It is said that the legendary figure at that time was wearing a golden armor, carrying a spear, and ran into the snowy field deep in the wilderness. I was going to challenge the ferocious dragon that was so powerful in the entire wilderness at that time, and I saw that." At this time, the mercenary was talking with great joy, as if he had seen it with his own eyes. Several other mercenaries, including Ye Feng, listened with interest, because in this endless wilderness, there are really too many legends and stories that have been passed down to future generations. "Is Mr. Ye Feng here?" Suddenly at this moment, a warrior from the Shen family walked up to several people. Ye Feng was a little confused, stood up and said, "Yes, I am, how about it?" "You are Mr. Ye Feng?" The Shen family warrior had a respectful attitude and said, "Master Ye Feng, our Shen family head has invited you." The head of the Shen family? The expressions of the surrounding mercenaries changed. The head of such a huge business family is a very powerful person. Why did he suddenly find Ye Feng tonight? Ye Feng's heart moved, as if he thought of something. His expression remained unchanged, and he just said to the Shen family in front of him, "Lead the way." Following the Shen family member who led the way, Ye Feng passed through the layers of convoys and headed towards the core area. Many members of the Shen family looked surprised and uncertain, wondering why Ye Feng, an ordinary young man, was able to enter the core area of their Shen family's caravan. After a while, Ye Feng finally arrived at the center of the caravan. There are many powerful Shen family core experts, guarding around a huge bronze chariot. The huge chariot was made entirely of bronze, with spiritual patterns engraved on it. It seems to be a defensive pattern. When attacked by powerful forces, the spiritual pattern will release defensive power to protect the bronze chariot. This huge bronze chariot, like a moving palace, is extremely heavy and is pulled by 9 huge black jade-horned horses. Ye Feng's eyes flickered. Such a huge bronze chariot would probably be worth a fortune. This Shen family caravan is indeed extremely rich. The master of the family is on the bronze chariot. Young Master Ye Feng can go in directly. The Shen family member who led the way stopped moving forward when they reached this point. A dozen strong men of the Shen family guarding the bronze chariot. Although at this time, the look in Ye Feng's eyes showed disdain. They seemed to think that such a young man could be so powerful. However, following the message from the head of the family just now, these dozen Shen family experts still strictly followed the orders and made way for Ye Feng. Ye Feng didn't care what these people thought. He was willing to come to see the head of the Shen family because he wanted to find out one thing, that is whether my previous guess was correct. The Shen family members seemed to know that they might encounter a huge crisis before the caravan set out into the cloudy forest. Tap, tap, tap. He walked slowly onto the bronze chariot and opened the curtain outside the chariot. Immediately, Ye Feng saw 2 figures sitting in the bronze chariot. They are a middle-aged man wearing tsing-yi and a majestic face. Another one is a beautiful young woman wearing a gold-patterned skirt and a graceful figure. Although this young woman has a beautiful face, her face is filled with an unhealthy, sickly, and pale complexion. The space inside the bronze chariot is very large. It doesn't look like a carriage, but more like a luxuriously decorated small palace. "Your Excellency is Mr. Ye Feng who killed the dragon-scaled demon ape with one sword. When I saw him today, he was indeed handsome with extraordinary temperament." Seeing Ye Feng walk in, the middle-aged man, Ye Feng, the head of the Shen family, immediately stood up and smiled at Ye Feng without any airs of a big shot. Obviously, the head of the Shen family, Ye Feng, also knew very well that killing the dragon-scale demon ape with one sword meant that he was very powerful, stronger than many people in the Shen family. When Ye Feng saw Ye Feng hugging him, he also smiled and hugged him. He cupped his fists and said, "Master Shen, you're too polite. I don't know why you came to see me today." Ye Feng immediately stepped forward, pulled Ye Feng to him, and said, "Master Ye Feng has extraordinary skills and powerful swordsmanship. I'll tell you the truth. Tonight, our entire Shen family caravan may encounter a huge crisis." Having said this, Ye Feng's eyes were tired and he begged, "I would like to ask Mr. Ye Feng to personally protect my daughter. If we really encounter an irresistible crisis, please ask Mr. Ye Feng to take my daughter away immediately. I am willing to give Master Ye Feng a generous reward." At this point, before Ye Feng could say anything, Ye Feng had already carefully taken out a pill that exuded a hazy golden light from his storage ring. He handed the elixir into Ye Feng's hands and said solemnly, "This elixir is a 9-turn golden elixir that I spent a huge amount of money on at an auction in ancient Yuan City. 9 transformations golden pill." Ye Feng's eyes suddenly changed. He had seen this kind of elixir from the Yi clan's elixir pavilion books. This is a very rare and precious elixir. Its grade has reached the earth level, second only to the legendary heaven level elixir. The 9-turn golden pill has a huge effect on warriors under the title martial realm. It can temper the physique, transform the muscles and bones, and strengthen the aura, which is priceless. Ye Feng asked aloud, "What if we don't encounter any huge crisis tonight?" Ye Feng smiled and said, "Then this 9-turn golden pill still belongs to young Master Ye Feng. Okay, I promise you." Ye Feng held the 9 turns golden pill in his hand with a hint of surprise in his eyes. "I didn't expect that by joining the Shen family's caravan, I could get a 9-turn golden pill. What a surprise." Chapter 72 Red Gold Bird. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dad! How could you hand over the 9-turn golden pill to such a stranger of unknown origin? We got this 9-turn golden pill at a huge cost. Suddenly at this time, Xianxia, who was sitting not far away, finally couldn't help but make a sound. She is Ye Feng's daughter and the most favored second lady in the entire Shen family. Although the beauty had a beautiful face, she was extremely pale and seemed to be dying in the next moment. Ye Feng secretly guessed at this time that the huge crisis Ye Feng mentioned this time was definitely related to Xianxia. However, now that he had collected the 9 turns golden pill, Ye Feng looked at the second young lady and said calmly, "If there is really a huge crisis, I will take action to ensure the safety of the entire caravan." Ye Feng is not talking big words, and he already has this qualification. Since his physique evolved into a silver combat body, he has awakened his second accompanying talent, the ancient divine ring, and the demon lord's armor has floated in his dantian. Ye Feng asked himself, under the title of martial arts realm, he was invincible. Even if a strong man with a title of martial arts comes, he can still fight. Ye Feng didn't use any of his trump cards last time, and he was able to fight Feng Jiu for a long time. It can be seen that the divine art of creation is really terrifying. It is only the second level, and it has already allowed Ye Feng to fight across 2 realms. At this time, after Ye Feng finished speaking, Ye Feng was overjoyed and quickly raised his hands and said, "Thank you, Mr. Ye Feng." The head of the Shen family has always had a vague feeling that Ye Feng is very extraordinary. "Dad, you are really, ugh." Xianxia was very helpless. She felt that her father was so wise all his life, but why was he so confused for a while? The ordinary-looking young man in white in front of him was clearly just pretending. At such a young age, what powerful force can he have to protect the entire caravan? But Ye Feng has made up his mind, and Xianxia can only stare at Ye Feng with her beautiful eyes. A little disgusted, whispered, "I don't know what kind of ecstasy soup you poured into my father, but you can deceive my father, but you can't deceive me." Ye Feng ignored the flamboyant second young lady. He just walked to Xianxia and got so close that he could even smell her faint fragrance. Xianxia quickly took a few steps back and said in panic, "What are you doing?" Ye Feng said expressionlessly, "I will protect you personally." "You." Xianxia was itching with hatred. This scoundrel obviously wanted to take advantage of her. Ye Feng just said, your father said to protect you personally. After saying that, Ye Feng stretched out his hand and grabbed Xianxia beside him, saying, "It's okay, don't move around." Xianxia gritted her teeth and said bitterly, "When I recover my cultivation, I will kill you with one sword." Snapped, but the next moment, a slap hit her buttocks. Xianxia was stunned immediately, and then her beautiful eyes were extremely ashamed and angry. Ye Feng, on the other hand, seemed to have done something insignificant and just said, "I'll beat you if you don't obey me." Xianxia wanted to say something more, but when she saw Ye Feng's serious eyes, she was so scared that she shrank her head and didn't dare to talk nonsense anymore. Under the dark sky, the entire forest was filled with deathly silence, although everyone in the entire caravan knew that as long as they passed this night, they would be able to walk out of the Yuntian forest and arrive at Xianxia City tomorrow. But on this last night, everyone felt an invisible pressure. Many people feel that their breathing is suffocating. The head of the Shen family, Ye Feng, had an unprecedented solemn look in his eyes. He was looking carefully around the deep forest surrounding the caravan. The uneasiness in the heart of this powerful man at the divine martial realm was getting stronger and stronger at this time. Even now, the surroundings are very quiet and there doesn't seem to be any danger, but Ye Feng could clearly feel a feeling of impending rain, immersed in the air. At this time, next to the bronze chariot, the second young lady of the Shen family, Xianxia, walked out of the chariot. She came to a piece of green grass and sat down. With the help of the moonlight, Xianxia looked up at the sky. She looked up at the stars in the sky and didn't know what she was thinking. Beside him, Ye Feng sat next to Xianxia. He suddenly asked in a low voice, "What exactly is in the caravan?" Xianxia was startled. Her beautiful eyes stared at Ye Feng, and said, "How do you know?" Ye Feng's heart suddenly moved when he saw Xianxia like this. It seemed that he had guessed it right. There must be something hidden in the huge caravan of the Shen family. That's why there is an unknown danger, slowly approaching. Ye Feng thought in his mind and asked directly, "I don't know, I just guessed that your father is a strong man in the divine martial realm and is so dignified, so I guess there must be something very precious hidden in your caravan, leading to unknown crises." Hearing what Ye Feng said, Xianxia glanced at the boy in white next to him in surprise. She didn't expect that Ye Feng was so smart and could guess this. Xianxia thought for a moment, then sighed softly and said, "It's all because of me." Ye Feng looked puzzled and said, "Because of you? I can already see that you seem to be born weak and sickly." Xianxia nodded and said, "I am born with a body that is cold and poisonous. This constitution makes my lifespan very short. Dad and eldest brother. In order to save me, the two of them searched for countless ways and finally found a cure." Ye Feng was a little surprised and said, "What can I do?" The body with congenital cold poison is also a very rare constitution of disaster. Of course, compared with the body cursed by God in my previous life, it pales into insignificance. However, the body with congenital cold poison is still very difficult to cure in the ordinary world. Xianxia stared at Ye Feng with her beautiful eyes at this time, and suddenly said very seriously, "The egg of the red golden bird contains the powerful essence of the red sun. After it is brought back to the red sun city and refined into the red sun pill, it can dispel the evil spirit in my body. Innate cold poison. A red gold bird's egg." Ye Feng's eyes moved and he said, "Crimson golden birds are very rare creatures. They usually live in the depths of the wilderness. Can you find them?" Xianxia smiled and said, "I have found the egg of the red gold bird, and it is in my storage ring." "What?" Ye Feng's complexion changed slightly. Only then did he understand why Ye Feng, who had a divine martial realm cultivation level, was so fearful. The red golden bird is a wild beast with the blood of an ancient demon flowing in its body, but now, the Shen family caravan unexpectedly got a red golden bird egg. Ye Feng asked, "Did you steal it?" Xianxia glanced at him and said, "Otherwise, if you are afraid, hand over the 9 turns golden pill and you can leave directly." Ye Feng smiled and said, "It turns out that you said so much just to scare me away." Xianxia snorted and didn't say anything more. She just turned her head away and didn't look at Ye Feng. At this time, Ye Feng's eyes were filled with an inexplicable look. He knows very well that the mature red gold bird definitely has powerful strength comparable to the peak of the divine martial realm, or even the titled martial realm. Chapter 73 Dead Silence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Blame me. It seemed that the tension in the entire caravan was getting stronger and stronger. Xianxia suddenly held her head with both hands, bitter tears streaming down her beautiful face. She murmured to herself, "If I hadn't been in such a weak body, Dad wouldn't have had to take such risks. If so many people in the Shen family died because of me, I would feel guilty for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't be able to live alone." Ye Feng glanced at Xianxia beside him and didn't know what to say, but he understands the feeling of helplessness and despair, because before dying in his last life, Ye Feng had deeply felt what true helplessness and despair meant. At this time, Ye Feng thought for a moment, then suddenly approached Xianxia's ear and whispered, "Don't worry, I can deal with the mature red golden bird." Boast. Xianxia knew that Ye Feng was comforting her, so she naturally didn't believe it. She just kept crying and seemed to feel more and more guilty. Seeing this, Ye Feng said nothing more and just sat on the grass next to Xianxia, waiting for the dawn to arrive. Chirp, dot. But suddenly at this moment, an earth-shattering roar sounded, like an ancient demon roaring in the dark night. No! The red golden bird is here, dot. Standing on the top of the huge bronze chariot, Ye Feng suddenly opened his eyes, his pupils filled with shock and anger. Finally, this powerful and vicious bird came. Crack, dot. A golden lightning flashed suddenly in the darkness. A Tianwu realm master from the Shen family was cut in half by the golden lightning, and blood splattered. What is that? What ferocious beast was that neighing just now? Everyone suddenly became panicked, even those powerful mercenaries were trembling all over, because a master of the Tianwu realm of the Shen family was torn apart in just an instant. It was terrible. That is. At this time, suddenly everyone saw it, high in the sky. A huge golden bird was circling rapidly. That golden lightning bolt just now was exactly this golden vicious bird. The red golden bird. It appears. Xianxia suddenly stood up from the grass, her beautiful eyes staring at the huge golden bird in the sky, her whole body trembling. The red golden bird is said to be a bird, but in fact it is like a huge golden eagle, hovering in the sky. The surface of its body is covered with pure golden bird feathers. These pure gold feathers are like poured molten iron, flowing with a cold metallic luster under the moonlight. The red golden bird spreads its huge golden wings, like two golden heavenly knives, with sharp edges that can cut through everything. Red gold bird. I admit that I stole a bird egg from you, and I am willing to exchange it with you for countless treasures of heaven and earth. My daughter, who is born with cold poison, really needs that red gold egg. Suddenly at this moment, Ye Feng stood up from the top of the bronze chariot. He shouted loudly to the sky, and asked the Shen family warriors to bring out boxes of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, which were priceless and had a huge effect on fierce birds like the red gold bird. But the next moment, the red golden bird swooped down, its claws like golden iron hooks, and it tore apart another Tianwu realm expert from the Shen family. This fierce bird has already made its attitude clear. Evil beast. Two powerful men of the Tianwu realm died in the Shen family all at once, and Ye Feng's eyes turned red all of a sudden. You evil beast, since you are unwilling to compromise, then fight with me. The winner will live and the loser will die. Ye Feng roared loudly, and the majestic fighting spirit of the divine martial realm spread out from his body with a force of 300 meters. Chang. Ye Feng took out his soldier from the storage ring, which was a large halberd more than 3 meters long. He brandished the great halberd, his whole body filled with murderous aura, and he suddenly charged towards the sky like an invincible general from ancient times. Although warriors in the divine martial realm are not yet able to fly at will, Ye Feng has initially been able to use the power of air to propel himself high into the sky. Boom! Ye Feng and the red gold bird exchanged blows, and a terrifying roar suddenly erupted in the sky. Chirp! The wings of the red golden bird spread out, like a golden lightning bolt, suddenly cutting into Ye Feng's body. Boom! Ye Feng raised the big halberd in his hand to resist, but the strength of the red golden bird was too great. Click. Boom! The golden wings were like a heavenly sword, cutting the euphorbia in Ye Feng's hand into two halves. In fact, at that moment, Ye Feng's head was almost cut and broken. Boom! The red golden bird struck Ye Feng on the chest with one claw. Wow! Ye Feng spit out a mouthful of blood and suddenly fell from the sky. Master! Father, the entire Shen family caravan was in chaos, countless people feel despair, they never expected that this red gold bird could be so powerful. Shen Juefeng's eyes were also full of deathly gray. This red gold bird that ran out from the depths of the wilderness was many times more powerful than he had imagined. Shen Juefeng looked at Shen Yi who was running towards him, and suddenly saw the red golden bird rushing towards Shen Yi. The ferocious golden claws seemed to tear Shen Yi into pieces. The red golden bird is taking revenge. This. A vicious bird wants to kill Shen Juefeng's heir. It already possesses extremely high intelligence. No. Shen Juefeng yelled crazily all of a sudden, his eyes full of despair. The red gold bird looks delicious. Maybe eating it will make my blood stronger. Suddenly, at this moment, a relaxed and comfortable young voice suddenly rang out in the entire panic-filled caravan. What is this sound? Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, countless eyes focused on a young man in white not far away. At this time, the young man in white stood up slowly from a piece of green grass. Buzz. And as he stood up, an indescribable majestic and vast fighting spirit that made countless people, even the red gold bird, suffocate, slowly rose up. At this moment, Ye Feng moved in an instant and walked directly in front of Shen Yi, waving his hand directly. Boom! The spiritual energy of the world boiled, and Ye Feng's hand instantly turned into a big silver hand as big as a millstone. With a pop, he swatted away the vicious red gold bird that was about to swoop down. Boom! The red golden bird screamed, and its body like a giant golden eagle was shot away. It smashed into a mountain in the distance and was buried under rolling rubble. Hiss! This scene was so shocking that the entire audience suddenly gasped. Immediately, there was deathly silence. Quiet. Deadly quiet. The tears in Shen Yi's beautiful eyes stopped, and she stared blankly at Ye Feng in front of her. This was a young figure that she originally despised and hated, but at this moment, in her heart, she suddenly rose infinitely, becoming as majestic and tall as a mountain. Chapter 74, Breaking Two Heavens in a Row. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The entire Yuntian forest was silent. No one would have thought that the ferocious bird, the red golden bird, could defeat even the powerful ones in the divine martial realm. At that moment, he was slapped away by Ye Feng. It also crashed into a large mountain and was buried in rubble. This scene is really shocking. So everyone on the field at this time, including those Shen family masters who had despised Ye Feng before, as well as Shen Yi and others, their eyes were filled with endless shock. I didn't expect that young Master Ye Feng would be so powerful. At this time, Shen Juefeng stood up tremblingly from the ground not far away, his eyes filled with wonder. He had seen Ye Feng kill the dragon-scaled demon ape with one sword before. He knew that the boy in white was very powerful, but what the Shen family had never expected was that Ye Feng would be so powerful. Ye Feng's move in exchange for the 9-turn golden pill was indeed a very wise choice. So powerful. I knew our little brother Yi was invincible. Ha ha ha, we are saved. At this time, a group of mercenaries were crying with joy and roaring crazily to express their excitement. Obviously, Shen Juefeng was defeated by the red golden bird before, fell from a high altitude and almost died. This made a group of mercenaries almost sink to the bottom of their hearts, feeling that they might really die today. But what they didn't expect was that Ye Feng took action and suddenly exploded with shocking fighting power. A slap suppressed the red gold bird. Shen Yi was behind Ye Feng at this time, with a little bit of embarrassment on her beautiful face. Obviously, she had always felt that Ye Feng was pretending. Shen Yi even ridiculed Ye Feng to his face for cheating on him with food and drink, and almost drove him away. But now, Ye Feng is all of a sudden, he seemed to have transformed from an ordinary boy into a mighty man. This made Shen Yi suddenly feel that she was really ashamed. She approached Ye Feng, her voice was sobbing, and she whispered, Mr. Ye Feng, I'm sorry for. I used to. It doesn't matter. Ye Feng just said lightly. He moved quickly and galloped directly towards the ruins where the red golden bird was buried. Shen Yi, who was still on the spot, bit her lips lightly, feeling that she was too narrow-minded. Ye Feng, on the other hand, remained calm in the face of his previous doubts. He was so broad-minded and admirable. At this time, the beautiful second lady of the Shen family looked at the figure in white who was running away from Ye Feng. in her bright eyes, there was suddenly a hint of adoring joy. At this time, Ye Feng came to the rolling stone ruins in the distance. Buzz. His powerful perception, transformed by the golden magic elixir in his brain, suddenly spread out. Found it. Almost instantly, Ye Feng sensed the life fluctuations of the red golden bird. Boom. Ye Feng blasted out a palm, and a large piece of stone was shattered, revealing a huge golden ferocious bird. At this time, all the bones in the red gold bird's body were broken. The force that Ye Feng's big silver hand unleashed just now was too powerful. The red golden bird, a ferocious bird in the wilderness, cannot be resisted. Ye Feng estimated at this time that if he attacked with all his strength, he would be able to compete with an ordinary one-step martial arts master just by relying on his body strength. Above the 4 basic martial arts realms is the titled martial arts realm. Titled martial realm is divided into 4 levels: titled martial king, titled martial emperor, titled martial sect, and titled martial master. Martial king, martial emperor, martial sect, martial lord. Each title realm is divided into 9 steps. After 9 steps, you can enter the next title realm. Therefore, Ye Feng can defeat the red golden bird with one slap. At this time, he estimated that the strength of his body was already comparable to that of an early-stage one-step martial king. If you add various trump cards, such as the ancient dragon elephant fist, the realm of the primary sword king, the second accompanying talent the ancient god ring bonus, the big killer space crack, etc. Ye Feng himself didn't even know what level of powerhouses he could kill with his true full strength, but he knew that if he exploded with all his strength, the lethality would be terrifying. The oven of creation. At this time, Ye Feng no longer hesitated and directly manifested an ancient huge furnace in the void behind him. Howl! In the extremely frightened eyes of the red golden bird, the lid of the oven of creation opened, and a powerful devouring power of darkness directly swallowed the red golden bird. Boom! At this moment, a huge amount of demonic energy was injected into Ye Feng's body, a red golden bird that can rival the peak of the 9th level of the human divine martial realm. The demonic energy in the body of this wild and ferocious bird has reached an extreme level. Ye Feng only felt that the majestic demonic energy suddenly began to flow in his limbs, then that majestic demonic essence was greedily swallowed up by every cell of his body, absorbed, refined, and finally became his own power. Boom! A quarter of an hour later, a new and huge martial arts aura suddenly erupted from Ye Feng's body. 6th level of Tianwu realm. Ye Feng clenched his fists. In his eyes, there was a golden light like a sword, which flashed past like cold lightning and divine fire, making people feel heart-stopping. After the huge demonic essence of this red gold bird was swallowed up, Ye Feng broke through the sky twice in a row. At this time, Ye Feng took out the 9-turn golden elixir from the storage ring. He stared at the 9 turns golden pill in his hand, thought for a moment, and then put the pill back. This kind of elixir is very rare. I'd better wait until I reach the peak of the 9th level of the Tianwu realm, and I'm about to break through to the divine martial realm before using it. Ye Feng thought secretly in his heart and turned around to return. When he came to the Shen family caravan again, the entire caravan has already buried the 2 Tianwu realm masters who were killed by the red golden bird before. At this time, many people, led by Ye Feng, the head of the Shen family, came to Ye Feng one after another. Then many people from the Shen family bowed their hands respectfully to Ye Feng and said, "This time, thank you Master Ye Feng for saving me." Ye Feng stepped forward, smiled and helped Ye Feng up, and said, "It doesn't matter, this is what I should do. The head of the Shen family gave me an extremely precious 9-turn golden pill. When the caravan encounters danger, I will naturally it's about taking action." At this time, Ye Feng once again saw the beautiful girl standing next to Ye Feng, and said with a smile, "How about it? I said I can solve the caravan crisis. You didn't believe it, now believe it." Seeing Ye Feng's gentle smile, Shen Yi immediately felt a little shy, lowered her head slightly, and whispered, "Mr. Ye Feng, he was petty before, please don't blame Mr. Ye Feng." Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed when they saw Shen Yi's shy look. Even Ye Feng had a smile in his eyes. Obviously, everyone did not expect that Mr. Ye Feng finally appeared and could make the usually delicate second lady look like such a little girl. It was really rare. Chapter 75 Crazy Sword Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The red golden bird is dead. The entire caravan suddenly became safe. After a night of near misses, the caravan that stretched hundreds of meters slowly drove out of the Yuntian Monglin. The next morning, under the warm sunshine, the entire caravan safely walked out of the jungle and entered a huge ancient city. Xianxia City. Looking at the three ancient characters on the city gate, many people cried with joy. They are finally back home. I remembered the thrilling moment I experienced in the wild forest before. Many Shen family members couldn't help but feel scared. Many of them are sons of their parents, husbands of their wives, fathers of their children, and the backbone of their families. If they die, their family is destroyed. At this time, many eyes were focused on a young man in white among the caravan. They knew very well that if it weren't for this powerful young man who was like a god descending from heaven, no one in their entire caravan might be able to return home alive. At this time, everyone came to Ye Feng one after another. Thank you, Mr. Ye Feng, for helping me this time. Everyone saluted one by one, and then left the caravan eagerly. At this time, there is nothing more urgent than going home to reunite with your family. Ye Feng also smiled and said, hurry up and go home. Soon, the entire caravan was almost gone. Ye Feng was very happy. Once the red golden bird died, his daughter Xianxia could safely use the red golden bird's egg. This time all the guards who join my Shen family will be paid double. The head of the Shen family laughed loudly, obviously feeling very happy inside. Thank you very much, Master Shen. All the mercenaries who joined the Shen family's caravan looked overjoyed. They knew that they had taken advantage of Ye Feng. If it hadn't been for Ye Feng, let alone getting double the reward, it would have been a problem whether they could have walked out of the Yuntian Monglin alive. Thinking of this, many mercenaries smiled and said to Ye Feng, Brother Yi, let's go to Xianxia Tower to have a good time together. We are treating you. Ha ha ha. Ye Feng smiled and was about to say something, but at this time, Xianxia, the second young lady of the Shen family, suddenly walked up to Ye Feng. There was a sense of shame on her beautiful face, and she said playfully, Master Ye Feng, this time you saved the entire convoy and also saved my life. I would like to invite you to come and sit in our Shen family, okay? Ah. Hearing what Xianxia said, many mercenaries were naturally experienced, and they immediately saw something. They knew that the second young lady of the Shen family might have feelings for Ye Feng's little daughter. Many mercenaries immediately said, Master Ye Feng, the beautiful lady has an appointment. We rough guys won't disturb you. Ha ha ha, let's leave first. After saying that, a group of mercenaries left laughing. Several mercenaries turned back to Ye Feng and said, Brother Yi, see you again when you have the chance. Ye Feng nodded and said, okay, see you later. But everyone knows that this farewell will probably never be seen again. They are just passers-by in life. Ye Feng looked at the beautiful woman in front of him and said with a smile, let's go, I just want to go to your house to have a rest. The fatigue of traveling these past few days also made Ye Feng a little tired. Moreover, the Shen family is a big family in Xianxia City, so they should have a map to the Sword Sect. Ye Feng plans to rest for a few days before setting off for the Sword Sect. The Shen family's mansion is extremely luxurious and huge, but when Ye Feng, Ye Feng, Xianxia, and other members of the Shen family came back. Throughout the mansion, many Shen family servants who were stationed at the family had red eyes and extremely tired faces. Ye Feng's eyes flashed. This was not the state a member of a big family should have. Could it be that the Shen family has been in such a bad time that even the family's headquarters has experienced some changes? Sure enough, the moment the servants in the Shen family's mansion saw their master return, everyone was excited and shouted. Master! Master, you are finally back. All the servants rushed forward to greet him. Ye Feng saw the expressions of everyone in their family mansion. His heart suddenly sank, and he quickly asked, what happened during my absence? A member of the Shen family who looked like a butler quickly reported to Ye Feng with fists clasped in his hands, Master, the eldest son was poisoned by a vicious villain from the Crazy Knife sect. His martial arts skills are completely useless and he is about to die now. What? Almost at this moment, Ye Feng and Xianxia's eyes changed drastically. They all ran towards the eldest son's residence in the center of the mansion. Before leaving, Ye Feng said to Ye Feng, Master Ye Feng, I'm really sorry. The changes in our family have made you laugh. Ye Feng said, the eldest young master must have been poisoned. Let me go too. Maybe I can be of some help. Ye Feng still has some good impressions of Ye Feng and Shen Yi, that's why he said this, otherwise Ye Feng would never agree to Shen Yi's invitation and come to Shen's house. Then thank you Mr. Ye Feng. Ye Feng nodded gratefully and quickly led the people towards the center of the mansion. Although Ye Feng said he could help in some way, Ye Feng actually didn't take it to heart, because although Ye Feng is powerful, his medical skills and martial arts strength have nothing to do with each other. Treating people and detoxifying them still requires specialized doctors or alchemists. It is very rare for Ye Feng to be so strong in martial arts at such a young age. How could he still have superb medical skills? Therefore, Ye Feng's hopes at this time were all pinned on the master of medicine in his mansion who was famous throughout Xianxia city. After a while, the group arrived at a pavilion in the center of the mansion. At this time, on a bed made of vermilion sandalwood, a young man with a black aura on his face was lying there, as angry as a gossamer. This person is Shen Yuan, the eldest son of the Shen family. Yuaner, Ye Feng rushed over at once. Looking at the miserable Shen Yuan on the bed, he felt extremely distressed and frightened. Ye Feng never thought that his son would already be tortured by the Guangdao sect and become like this after he had been out for only half a month. Crazy Blade Sect, you guys are going too far. Ye Feng's eyes were ferocious, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Master! Father! The Shen family members beside him, as well as Shen Yi, all looked shocked. I'm fine. Ye Feng looked at the old man beside the bed, clasped his fists respectfully and said, Gu, Yuaner, his poison. This old man was wearing an alchemist's robe, and there was a hint of aloofness between his brows. This person is the most famous elixir master in Xianxia city, the ancient master. Chapter 76 Silver Blood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He frowned slightly at this time and said, the poison on the eldest son is very rare. I still can't detoxify it. I can only use some precious elixirs to help the eldest son stay alive. What? When Ye Feng heard what Master Gu said, his face immediately turned pale and his eyes were full of despair. Everyone around them felt cold all over when they heard Master Gu's words. At this time, Shen Yi suddenly said, Dad, let Mr. Ye Feng take a look. Didn't Mr. Ye Feng say that he might be able to help? Oh. Who is young Master Ye Feng? Master Gu suddenly spoke up. Shen Yi immediately said, it's a very powerful young genius that our Shen family caravan met on the road. Nonsense. Suddenly Master Gu shouted loudly, which startled Shen Yi. Master Gu said coldly, what kind of medical skills can a young man know? Even if his martial arts is strong, how can he compare to me, a master of elixirs who has studied it all his life? Obviously, Shen Yi's words made the ancient master feel that they were provoking him. Okay, just say a few words. Ye Feng suddenly spoke up. His face was ashen now, and he obviously didn't believe that Ye Feng could cure Shen Yuan. After all, although Ye Feng's martial arts cultivation is strong, his method of elixirs has nothing to do with his martial arts strength. The whole pavilion suddenly fell into silence. Shen Yi gritted her teeth at this time, secretly walked out of the pavilion and came to the door. Ye Feng, dressed in white, was standing there. He didn't follow a few people in before. After all, it is a private matter. At home, he just said to call him if you needed help. Seeing Shen Yi walking out at this time, Ye Feng smiled slightly and asked, how is your brother? Br almost dead. Shen Yi was very eager, stretched out a pair of jade-like hands, pulled Ye Feng and walked towards the house. They don't believe you, Mr. Ye Feng, but I do. Ye Feng glanced at Shen Yi in surprise. He didn't expect that the second lady of the Shen family's attitude towards him would change so quickly. When the two came to the house, they happened to see several people discussing what type of coffin to order for Shen Yuan. Obviously, even Ye Feng has given up hope. His face was icy and he said, choose the best coffin for Yuaner, and then, come with me to the Crazy Blade Sect to avenge you. When Shen Yi heard her father's words, she immediately said anxiously, brother can still be saved. I brought young Master Ye Feng over, and then young Master Ye Feng took a look. This. When Ye Feng saw Ye Feng, he immediately hesitated. Obviously, he wanted to be angry with Shen Yi now, but it was difficult to get angry because Ye Feng was present after all. But Master Gu was not polite. The old man stared at Shen Yi and shouted coldly, little girl, your brother is hopeless. Don't do anything to your brother. In the last moment, let him leave quietly like this. Bar. When Ye Feng heard this, he also sighed secretly. Obviously he thought so too. After all, even the most famous ancient master in Xianxia city couldn't cure Xinyuan's poison, which meant that he was already cold. Ye Feng walked towards Xinyuan at this time, not caring about Master Gu's angry shouts. He came to the bed where Xinyuan was lying and took a casual look, as if he noticed something. Ye Feng's eyes flashed slightly and he suddenly said, "There is still hope." What? Almost as soon as Ye Feng finished speaking, the entire field fell into shock. However, the ancient master's face suddenly turned livid. The well-known elixir master in Xianxia city shouted sternly at Ye Feng, "Ignorant boy, you dare to talk nonsense here, get out of here." Master Gu said at this time, with an angry look on his face. Ye Feng glanced at Master Gu meaningfully, smiled and said, "Master Gu, right? I said I can cure the eldest son Xinyuan, why are you so anxious all of a sudden?" Master Gu snorted coldly and said, "I'm laughing at you, an ignorant kid, for daring to pretend in front of me. Do you know that this is not a place for you to act wild?" "Enough!" Ye Feng suddenly shouted loudly. He stared at Ye Feng suddenly, clasped his fists and said, "I know that Brother Yi is not a reckless person. Because there is no need, I ask Brother Yi to do his best to save my vitality." "Son." Ye Feng nodded and said aloud, "Although I haven't learned any pill techniques, I can indeed cure this poison." In fact, Ye Feng didn't need to know the art of elixirs to detoxify, because his first associated talent, the creation oven, originally had the ability to devour the power of other living beings. When Ye Feng was in the Xinjian village deep in the wilderness, he had rescued 2 villagers infected by demonic energy. At that time, he used the power of the oven of creation to absorb the demonic poison in their bodies, and then the oven of creation burned the demonic poison directly. So this time, Ye Feng originally planned to use the same method to swallow and refine the toxins in Xinyuan's body, but just now, Ye Feng learned from the Grand Duke of the Shen family, an unusual aura was detected on Zi's body. At this time, Ye Feng suddenly looked at Master Gu next to him and said with a smile, "If my guess is correct, the poison in the eldest son's body is not an ordinary poison at all, but a poison. That kind of Gu insects are called poison-eating insects." "What? Gu insect?" At this time, the expressions of everyone in the whole room changed drastically. Even Master Gu's face suddenly turned gloomy. Because Ye Feng was right, the poisonous insects in the eldest son's body were indeed called poison-eating insects. Master Gu smiled coldly and said, "What if you know that the poisonous insect is a poison-eating insect? This poison-eating insect is a strange insect spread from ancient times. We ordinary people have no way to kill it." When Ye Feng heard this, he just smiled and said, "I have a way." After the words fell, Ye Feng squatted beside the bed and bit one of his fingers. Crack! A drop of silvery blood dripped from Ye Feng's fingertips and landed on the bed. Silver blood! Everyone was shocked by this amazing scene. Does this kid have some kind of special physique? At this time, even Master Gu couldn't help but look surprised. Zitzi! Zitzi! And at this moment, suddenly a small black bug came out of Xinyuan's ear. This little black bug is only the size of a fingernail, but its whole body looks like it is made of black gold and looks indestructible. Moreover, the small mouth of this black gold bug actually has rows of small and ferocious black fangs, which looks very scary. Chapter 77, Poison-Eating Insects. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's indeed a poison-eating insect. Ye Feng's eyes were suddenly startled, and then he was overjoyed. Others don't know, even the ancient master probably doesn't know either. This poison-eating insect is very rare even in the spiritual world. Ye Feng once looked through many ancient books in the library deep in the palace of the creation god dynasty. It is recorded in the books that this poison-eating insect, despite its small size, was a creature that frightened even the ancient giant beasts. In the ancient prehistoric era, Ye Feng still remembers the records in the ancient book he read back then. Poison-eating insects, ancient alien insects, are impressively ranked 37th on the legendary list of ancient spiritual insects. The 37th one is very close to the top. This kind of evil insect was almost extinct even in the spiritual world 3,000 years ago. Ye Feng never expected that he would encounter one in such a small and remote place in the southern region of Longyuan continent. According to ancient records, if the poison-eating insect is mature, it cannot be destroyed by wind, fire, thunder, or lightning. Its body is as hard as a magical weapon. Thinking about it, you know that even thunder and fire cannot kill such evil insects, and they are extremely poisonous. If it got into the body of any living being, it would definitely be a disaster. Therefore, according to the records in ancient books, even if there are many wild beasts and ancient relics, they must be careful to avoid this poison-eating insect when they encounter it. However, Ye Feng was not afraid when he looked at the poison-eating insect in front of him, because he could see that this was still a juvenile poison-eating insect. But even the poison-eating insects in their infancy are extremely terrifying. This can be seen from the fact that Xianxia, a powerful being at the 9th level of the heavenly martial realm who was about to enter the divine martial realm, was poisoned by poison-eating insects. Zilu, that the poison-eating insect ran to the edge of the drop of silver blood that Ye Feng forced out of the silver battle body. It zhonged that he opened his mouth full of fangs and sucked in the drop of silver blood into his stomach. Then the poison-eating insect lay contentedly on the wooden board of the bed, seeming to enjoy it very much. Huh, what a cute little guy. Ye Feng smiled. This is a treasure. He was not afraid of the poison-eating insects, so he grabbed the poison-eating insects directly into his hands, put them in his cuffs, and carried them close to his body. If we were to confront someone in the future and take him by surprise, the poison-eating insect, an ancient evil insect, would definitely be a deadly weapon and a nightmare for all enemies. Ye Feng couldn't help but sigh at this moment. Such a rare poison-eating insect was actually used by a sect as a poisonous insect. It was really a waste of natural resources. Gulu. At this time, many people around Ye Feng swallowed their saliva when they saw Ye Feng put the evil insect into his sleeves. Obviously, everyone was shocked by Ye Feng's strength. Even Master Gu's lips trembled and he pointed at Ye Feng and said, You. Obviously, in the eyes of the ancient master, what Ye Feng did just now was just like the legendary demon cultivator. He fed the poison-eating insects with his own blood, and then conquered the poison-eating insects. He even placed this vicious insect on his body. Master Gu looked at Ye Feng at this time, and all the sarcasm and contempt disappeared. Just the deep fear and timidity. Father. Suddenly at this time, Xianxia woke up on the bed. At this time, the black energy that had previously entangled Xianxuan's face had completely dissipated. Master Gu felt ashamed at this time. His face turned red, and he said, This guy is really awesome, I'm leaving. As soon as he finished speaking, Master Gu walked out of the room. He's also a master of elixirs. His reputation is really in vain. Xianxia came to the bedside and looked at Xianxuan who was recovering, and couldn't help saying bitterly. Ye Feng said with a smile at this time, this ancient master still has his wits about him, otherwise the eldest son would have died long ago. The poison-eating insects are 10,000 times more dangerous than you think. After saying that, Xianxia and Xianxuan and his son were stunned, and then they were filled with fear. Ye Feng guessed that the crazy blade sect that poisoned it probably didn't know what kind of existence the poison-eating insect they accidentally obtained was. The Shen family came to the right place this time. If the poison-eating insects can be cultivated to maturity, it will definitely be a nightmare for countless living beings. Ye Feng was thinking secretly in his heart at this time. At this time, Xianxia was jumping for joy and said, Dad, I think it's not that Master Gu is not great, but that young Master Ye Feng is too great. Yeah, Xianxia laughed. Dad, I have some bad news for you. At this time, Xianxuan suddenly spoke up, with a worried tone, and said, the master of the Crazy Blade sect got a 9-turn golden pill from somewhere. After he swallowed it, he secretly retreated for 7 days and successfully broke through. Reached the first level of the titled martial realm and became the titled martial king. What? After hearing what Xianxuan said, Xianxua's expression immediately changed. Xianxi's beautiful eyes were startled next to her, feeling a kind of sincere fear. Once a warrior enters the titled martial realm, he is on a completely different level of power. Even if he is at the peak of the 9th level of the divine martial realm, he will no longer be the enemy of a titled martial king with just one move. Xianxuan frowned and said to the guards beside him, send young Master Ye Feng to the wing first, rest, we will discuss this later. Ye Feng nodded, turned around and followed a guard out of the room. He just needs to be alone now and study the poison-eating insects. If he cultivates it well, this ancient evil insect will definitely be a great help to him in the future. That night, on the endless dark sky, there are stars, like diamonds exuding silver brilliance, inlaid on it. At this time, Ye Feng was sitting in his room, holding a thumb-sized black gold bug in his hand and observing it carefully. This little black and gold insect is naturally a poison-eating insect. It is the top ancient evil on the list of ancient spiritual insects. At this time, after eating a drop of Ye Feng's blood, the poison-eating insect seemed to be really full. It was groggy and the little thing had no energy at all. Ye Feng guessed that the energy contained in a drop of blood in his silver battle body was too huge. This made it clear that these were just newly born juvenile poison-eating insects that could not be digested. After all, Ye Feng's created body is no longer the same as a mortal, he has become another, greater existence. And with the evolution of the divine art of creation, Ye Feng's physique and life level will also evolve to higher and higher levels. Ye Feng held the small poison-eating insect in his hand and looked at it carefully. He used all his strength, but he couldn't crush the little bug, and the poison-eating bug didn't move at all. Ye Feng's body strength is very terrifying now. He was not afraid of the existence of the titled martial realm. He almost killed even the red golden bird with a slap. But now, the poison-eating insect in his hand is neither painful nor itchy. This poison-eating insect has just been born, not even in its infancy. Chapter 78 Cooperation. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. At this time, Ye Feng finally understood why this ancient evil insect ranked so high on the ancient spiritual insect list. Ye Feng hid the poison-eating insect close to his body. Dong dong dong. Suddenly at this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Who? Ye Feng was a little confused. It's so late, who will come to find me? Ye Feng walked over and opened the door, and found two figures standing outside the door. They are father and son Xianyuan and Ye. Ye Feng was a little confused and said, it's so late. Do the master Shen and the eldest son have anything to do with me? Ye was a little embarrassed. After thinking for a moment, he finally said, I would like to ask Brother Yi to join forces with my Shen family to destroy the Crazy Blade sect. Ye Feng smiled slightly and said, Master Shen, I have done my best to help you so far. To be honest, I will prepare to leave the Shen family tomorrow and go to Jinzhong. Xianyuan suddenly said at this time, Master Ye Feng, I saw that you were very interested in that little bug during the day. I know that there is a place in Guangdao sect with a nest of that bug. What? Ye Feng's eyes suddenly flashed with a dazzling golden light. He suddenly grabbed Xianyuan's arms in front of him and said in surprise, Is it exactly the same as the bug on your body during the day? Although Xianyuan didn't know Ye Feng was so excited, he saw the hope of cooperation and immediately nodded vigorously and said, Yes, exactly the same. Ye Feng's eyes suddenly became extremely hot. If he could get a poison-eating insect, he already felt that he was extremely lucky, but he never expected that Xianyuan would actually say that there was a nest of poison-eating insects in the Crazy Blade sect. Ye Feng's breathing was a little rapid at this time. Poison-eating insects were very rare in the spiritual world back then. A poison-eating insect, already 10 years old, the score is incredible. If it were a group of poison-eating insects, it would definitely be a very terrifying weapon. Ye Feng thought secretly in his heart. He stared at Xianyuan in front of him and said in a cold tone, Don't try to make up any lies in order to use my power to deal with the Guangdao sect. Xianyuan immediately smiled bitterly and said, I was saved by Mr. Ye Feng, and I know your incredible methods. How dare I lie to you? Isn't that asking for death? Xianyuan immediately burst into laughter and said, Then Brother Yi agreed. Ye Feng nodded and said with a smile, Happy cooperation. A Crazy Blade sect is nothing, just a so-called big force in Xiang City. In Ye Feng's eyes now, let alone the leader of the Mad Sword sect who has just stepped into the martial king's footsteps, even if Feng Jiu, a high-level martial king, is still a young prodigy, Ye Feng is not afraid now. He has now achieved a breakthrough in cultivation, his physique has undergone a huge transformation, and he has many more killer moves. Perhaps in the eyes of many other people in Xiang City, the Leader of the Crazy Blade Sect is an unparalleled and powerful man who is aloof and irresistible, but in Ye Feng's eyes, it was just like that, nothing special. Early the next morning, among the Shen family, Ye Feng and Shen Yuan, father and son, led a group of Shen family masters and walked toward the crazy sword gate of Xianxia city. Among their team was an inconspicuous young man in white, but whether it is Ye Feng, the head of the family, or Shen Yuan, the eldest son, or other high-level experts of the Shen family, they looked at the young man in white walking in the edge corner with a kind of vague awe in their eyes. Ye Feng walked quietly, but in his heart he was silently comprehending the shocking momentum of the sword that Uncle Nan taught him in his mind. He had a vague feeling that his artistic conception of swordsmanship was about to enter the realm of an intermediate sword king. Just the last bit left. On the street, everyone moves very fast. Many residents of Xianxia city around looked at the menacing Shen family with surprise in their eyes. What is going on? Is the Shen family about to start a war with the Crazy Blade Sect? It should be. I heard that the people from the Guangdao sect used a dirty trick and almost poisoned Shen Yuan, the eldest son of the Shen family. I see, but it is said that the master of the Mad Sword sect broke through to the legendary martial realm a few days ago and became the martial king. Is the Shen family so brave? Dare to challenge a newly promoted martial king Chang? At this time, many people in the entire Xianxia city were talking about it. Gradually, groups of people were attracted, all following the Shen family's team, heading towards the Crazy Blade Sect. The Crazy Blade Sect is located on a huge mountain peak. At this time, everyone in the Shen family stepped forward with murderous intent, followed by thousands of people from Xianxia city. It was so dark that it was very scary. There were several disciples standing at the door of Guangdao sect. When they saw people from the Shen family approaching, they immediately shouted, "Stop, people from the Shen family. Our sect leader has entered the realm of the king of martial arts and will personally come to conquer your Shen family. You'd better stand still. Aren't you afraid of angering us if you come so aggressively?" Poof! Suddenly, the speaking disciple of the Crazy Sword sect was cut off. The words stopped abruptly. So much nonsense. Shen Yuan wiped the blood on the knife and smiled coldly. He was almost poisoned to death by the Crazy Blade Sect, so naturally he has endless anger and murderous intent towards the Crazy Sword Sect. Now that Ye Feng is supporting him from behind, the eldest son of the Shen family is naturally a little swollen. He dares to kill even the disciples of the Crazy Sword Sect with a single blow. Kill someone. At this time, he saw his companion beside him being beheaded by Shen Yuan. Another disciple of the Crazy Blade Sect who was guarding the door suddenly screamed in fright. Chang! The sound of swords sounded. The voice of the shouting Crazy Blade Sect disciple also stopped abruptly. His throat has been cut with a knife. Shen Yuan held a long sword in his hand and shouted at the entire Crazy Blade Sect, "Master of the Crazy Sword Sect, you'd better show up as soon as possible. These disciples of yours are just a bunch of trash." But at this time, Ye Feng behind him had a hint of vigilance in his eyes. Obviously, the leader of the Crazy Sword Sect has stepped into the realm of the martial king. For the Shen family, it is nothing less than a huge threat, although Ye Feng has strong confidence in Ye Feng's strength. But after all, the leader of the Crazy Blade Sect became the titled martial king. Ye Feng was still a little unsure at this time, but he also knew it. Now that Ye Feng, a young master, is here, this is the Shen family's only chance, because if we don't cooperate with Ye Feng, we will kill the entire Crazy Blade Sect. Then in the end they surrender, or even be directly destroyed. It must be their Shen family. Originally, when Ye Feng heard that the leader of the Crazy Blade Sect had broken through to the realm of the martial king, he had already decided to move his entire family and leave Xianxia city, but Shen Yuan had great faith in Ye Feng who saved his life. That's why he proposed to cooperate with Ye Feng to completely eliminate the Crazy Blade Sect. As long as the leader of the Crazy Sword Sect is killed, the entire Crazy Sword Sect will be in disarray. Chapter 79 Impossible to be defeated. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Buzzed. At this time, Ye Feng was thinking secretly in his heart. From the depths of the Crazy Blade Sect, a very powerful martial arts momentum suddenly came out. That kind of momentum is extremely majestic. Everyone felt like a huge mountain was coming over them. It makes people feel breathless and very depressing. This is the aura of a powerful martial king. Shen Juefeng's expression changed. Only those who truly face a powerful martial king will know how terrifying is the existence of the martial king level titled martial realm. They are like a group of ants looking up at a giant dragon. Shen family, you are very courageous. Who gave you the courage to come and provoke the master of this sect in person? Accompanied by a majestic voice like the sea, a slightly thin middle-aged man in black clothes walked out from the depths of the Crazy Blade sect. When he walked, his feet were slightly off the ground, as if he were gliding. In a few steps, he was in front of everyone. This person's martial arts has obviously reached an extremely powerful and terrifying level, when Shen Yuan faced the leader of the Crazy Knife sect. At this time, the long knife in his hand actually clicked and shattered inch by inch, thump thump thump. He couldn't help but take a few steps back, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes were filled with horror. The master of the Crazy Blade sect, the king of martial arts, is simply too powerful. Just the invisible martial arts momentum was too much for Shen Yuan to resist, even suffered a heavy blow in an instant. What a terrifying strength! As expected of the legendary martial king, every move he makes is unpredictable. I said before that the Shen family was so bold this time and dared to provoke the Guangdao sect. They were simply asking for death. At this time, many people on the field were talking about it. Someone is shocked, sigh, some people sneered, and some people were worried for the Shen family, because if even the largest family, the Shen family, fell, it won't take long for the entire Xianxia city to be completely dominated by the Crazy Sword sect. How can the Shen family break the situation? This is the common thought in the minds of everyone around now, facing the true king of martial arts, the leader of the Crazy Blade sect. Even Shen Juefeng is far from his opponent. Moreover, to deal with a legendary powerful king of martial arts, relying on the human seed tactic is obviously not feasible. Master Ye Feng, it's up to you. Suddenly at this moment, Shen Yuan spoke up. Countless people watching the battle around saw this with great confusion. Everyone in the Shen family, including Shen Juefeng, the majestic and profound head of the Shen family, they all looked at the young man in white standing at the corner of the Shen family's team. Who is he? This is the common thought in everyone's mind at this time. As expected, she has just been promoted to the martial king realm, and is much weaker than that woman Feng Jiu. Suddenly, Ye Feng's faint voice sounded, and almost at the moment his voice fell, the entire field suddenly fell into a dead silence. How dare he say that the master of the Crazy Blade sect is inferior to a woman? Although no one knew who Feng Jiu Ye Feng was talking about, but everyone felt that it was too weird for Ye Feng to compare a woman with the master of the Crazy Blade sect. The leader of the Crazy Knife sect suddenly stared at Ye Feng. His eyes were cold and stern, and his voice was low. Are you humiliating me? Ye Feng shook his head and said, I didn't humiliate you, I just compared you with a friend of mine. After saying that, Ye Feng walked towards the Crazy Knife sect. Lord, great peace. What does this young man want to do? Isn't he going to fight the leader of the Crazy Blade sect? Everyone's eyes widened. They never expected that the Shen family's confidence would come from a boy who looked to be no more than 17 or 18 years old. This is simply too dreamy. How could an ordinary young man fight against the master of the Crazy Blade sect in Xianxia city? The fly shakes the tree. The leader of the Crazy Knife sect smiled coldly, with undisguised contempt in his eyes, but Ye Feng spoke out at this time. One sword. A sword? Everyone looked puzzled. The leader of the Crazy Blade sect was also confused by Ye Feng's meaningless words. He couldn't help but ask, what sword? Ye Feng held the sword box on his back in his left hand, and held the hilt of the sword in his right hand, making a gesture of drawing the sword. He looked at the master of the Crazy Blade sect and said calmly, what I mean is that I will only throw out one sword. If you can catch this sword, I will turn around and leave. What? Everyone was shocked by Ye Feng's words. Master Ye Feng, even Shen Juefeng's expression changed drastically, feeling that Ye Feng was too much. You must know that the leader of the Crazy Blade sect is not just a cat or a dog, but a legendary martial king. Too arrogant. This was the evaluation given to Ye Feng by everyone present. Okay, that the leader of the Crazy Blade sect felt that he was deeply humiliated. He laughed in anger, and a huge and boundless kingly aura suddenly emerged from his body. This sect leader would like to see how earth-shattering your sword is. that the leader of the Crazy Blade sect sneered. He spread his hands, and two long knives condensed with red Real energy appeared, burning on the blade. Flame, the edge of the knife, the burning out of fire. At this moment, it was concentrated on the hands of the Crazy Blade sect master. It's like being able to break the sky with a knife and destroy the void with fire. This is the famous combat skill of the Mad Sword Master, the fiery divine sword. Use true energy to condense the long sword and forge his domineering sword intention. It can kill almost any existence under the title martial realm. Someone in the crowd exclaimed, feeling their whole body shaking. Ye Feng, Xin Yuan and other Shen family warriors felt their hearts sink to the bottom at this time. Ye Feng's eyes were filled with fear, and he murmured, with such a domineering sword intention, could it be that the master of the Crazy Sword sect has comprehended the legendary Sword King's sword intention? A Sword King with the title of King of Martial Arts. The powerful two kings. It's so scary. The young man in white clothes will not only give him one sword, but also give him thousands of swords. I am afraid that in the end he will be torn to pieces by the Mad Sword Master. Everyone's voices were trembling, and they were all extremely frightened at this moment. Buzz. The terrifying aura of King Wu, the domineering Sword King's sword intent, at this time, it spread in the void, shaking the land within a kilometer radius. Everyone enveloped by that aura, including Ye Feng, a strong man in the divine martial realm, felt their breaths were suffocated. King Wu. King of Swords. Obviously no one expected that the leader of the Crazy Blade sect would turn out to be a terrifying existence who had stepped into the realm of the two kings. This is bad. Ye Feng's face suddenly turned extremely pale, without a trace of blood. Even Xin Yuan, the eldest son of the Shen family, who had always been extremely confident in Ye Feng, was now filled with fear. It is impossible for the two powerful men to be defeated in this small Qiang city. At this time, the leader of the Crazy Knife sect looked aloof, condescending, looking down at Ye Feng, and sneered, how? Chapter 80 Death. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Ye Feng's face was calm. One sword. It's still these two words. Presumptuous. The leader of the Crazy Blade sect roared loudly, boom. A violent and boundless momentum suddenly burst out from his whole body. You are an arrogant boy who doesn't know the heights of heaven and earth. Today I will use my strongest killing move to tear you into pieces. You will be proud of yourself if you die in the hands of a strong man like me. The leader of the Crazy Blade sect looked up to the sky and roared. This moment, the domineering sword intention and the martial arts aura as powerful as the vast sea, everything surged out from the body of the Crazy Blade sect master. Two violent and powerful forces merged together at this moment, releasing unparalleled power. The leader of the Crazy Blade sect held two true essence swords that were as red as blood. Each long knife looks like it is made of phoenix blood red gold. Above the blade, the light reaches to the sky, like two long bloody dragons, roaring in the sky. Everyone felt an aura of destruction like the coming of death. Boom. Powerful power boils in the void like an ocean. At this moment, everything is pouring down, and murderous intent is surging in Ye Feng's direction, trying to destroy everything. Ye Feng stood there, alone, indifferent to the attacks from the sky. This kid must be scared out of his wits. Someone sneered. Aha. But at that moment when the sky-wide attack was about to reach Ye Feng finally moved. Chang. A harsh sword sound sounded. Ye Feng slowly pulled out the long sword in his hand. Every inch the sword is pulled out of the sword box, the cold sword light on the sword body becomes stronger. At the end, Ye Feng pulled out the entire sword from the sword box. The extremely cold sword light has enveloped the entire area where Ye Feng was standing. Ye Feng did not use any sword skills. Martial arts is just the integration of the sword intention of the intermediate Sword King that he has just comprehended into this sword. Moreover, there is also the charm of the shocking sword move that Uncle Nan gave him. It was a kind of sword power that belonged to the Emperor of Swordsmanship, although it's just a trace. The essence and power of the sword's power are many times more majestic and powerful than the Sword King's sword intention. Boom! The cold sword light did not have any bells and whistles, only the extremely terrifying cold light, which suddenly penetrated into the vast sea of power released by the master of the Mad Sword sect, like a ray of light that created the world. Ye Feng's sword was extremely stunning. the sword light of the sword body tore into pieces the aura of the vast sea and the two long red swords that reached the sky. Boom! This sword is unstoppable, piercing and tearing through everything. Sword King Sword Intent, the leader of the Crazy Blade sect suddenly roared in anger in the sky. Immediately, the sound of shock and anger turned into fear and fear. No. The Sword King's sword intention cannot be so powerful, it is just a trace of sword power. Impossible. How is it possible? Poof. The leader of the Crazy Blade sect wanted to say something more, but a sword as cold as iron had already pierced his throat. Blood splattered. The leader of the Crazy Knife sect covered his throat, his pupils tightened, and he stared at Ye Feng in front of him with fear and horror. Then, boom! He suddenly fell from a high altitude and hit the wilderness in the distance. He could not die anymore. A strong man with two kings, die. Killed with one sword. What? Throughout the field, countless people stared with wide-eyed expressions. Quiet. Deadly quiet. There is nothing more shocking than seeing a legendary titled king die in front of your eyes. That's a strong man with two kings. Almost invincible in our Xianxia city. Falled like this? And he was killed with a sword, everyone exclaimed and gasped one after another. The layman looks at the excitement, an expert looks at the door. That sword is so amazing, there were people with extraordinary eyesight among the crowd who saw the true horror of Ye Feng's sword. They all exclaimed in admiration and their eyes were shocked. After all, Ye Feng is still so young and has unlimited potential. Aha. At this time, Ye Feng descended from a high altitude and landed in front of the body of the Mad Knife sect leader. The body of the Mad Sword sect leader fell into the wilderness of the mountains outside the Mad Sword sect, so there was no one around at this time. The oven of creation, Ye Feng no longer hesitated and directly swallowed up all the skills of the master of the Crazy Blade sect. The skill of a strong one-step martial artist is very powerful. Moreover, this Mad Sword sect leader is still a junior sword king. The true essence of his skill contains the sword essence, and the quality is very high. After Ye Feng swallowed it, he felt that his strength suddenly increased a lot. His cultivation level has also been greatly improved, but what surprised Ye Feng was that there was no breakthrough in his cultivation. Although there was only a trace of the power of the sword in my sword just now, it was powerful enough to destroy all the vitality of the Mad Sword sect master, and most of the skills in his body were disintegrated. Ye Feng secretly thought about the reason. In this way, using the power of the sword has made him lose money. However, without using a trace of sword power, he could not kill the Mad Sword master with one sword. Ye Feng thought for a while and searched for a storage spirit ring from the owner of the Crazy Knife sect. He explored it slightly and found that there was huge wealth in the storage ring. Not bad. A smile appeared on Ye Feng's face. Kill enemies and get treasures. It is indeed a good way to accumulate wealth quickly. At this time, Ye Feng suddenly had the strange idea of wanting others to mess with him, but what Ye Feng is most concerned about is the dragon covering the sky, the most talented young genius in the great Yan dynasty and the chief elder brother of the sword sect must have countless wealth and treasures. Next, Ye Feng walked out of the mountains and wilderness, when he came to the gate of Crazy Blade sect. Again, he found that the Shen family had conquered the entire Crazy Sword sect. At this time, Shen Yuan asked several strong men to move a huge stone box in front of Ye Feng. Shen Yuan smiled and said, "Master Ye Feng, there is a nest of poison-eating insects here." Oh, Ye Feng's eyes lit up and he immediately opened the huge stone box. Inside, there were tiny poison-eating insects lying around. A total of 40 or 50. Each poisonous insect looks like it is made of black gold and looks indestructible. This is a huge gain. Very good. Ye Feng's eyes were excited as he put all the poison-eating insects into the storage ring. With so many poison-eating insects, maybe I can cultivate a legendary poison-eating insect king in the future. The poison-eating insect king, in the ancient chaotic era, was a terrifying creature that was said to be able to fight with immortals. Although that is just a legend, it may be exaggerated, but being able to leave behind such a famous and ferocious legend shows how terrifying the poison-eating insect king is. The news of the death of the leader of the Crazy Blade sect had spread throughout Xianxia city in almost a few days. Even several large cities around Xianxia city were shocked by this news.